Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I just started watching Life of Brian for like the first time ever. It's like 5 minutes in, I've laughed like 10 times. The weirdest thing is it's a pretty mild comedy, and you couldn't do any of that stuff right now. Like every single thing I laughed at is like you can't do that, you can't do that. But anyway, I've been trying to zip down the vlog stuff at the beginning, so let's get right into this. This is Iceman number 5. This is the final issue of Iceman. The second final issue of Iceman. The first final was last March. The second final was right now. And the third final is next month. No, I'm not making this up. Marvel is such a clown show that they promote series, ongoing series to limited miniseries, and then they promote miniseries to one shot. So let's just get right into the second final. So this one was just... So one of the big things, one of the biggest fun things of the channel is to have someone I've been roasting to death improve or suddenly become great, like Chip Zdarsky. I literally said I wanted Trump to cancel his visa. People are always harping on mean things I said. That was mean, because I actually did mean it. I did mean it in the summer of 2017. And then something amazing happened. He tried, he strived, he improved. Now we all love him. He's on Daredevil. I couldn't be happier. And then I just read this blurb that says he's going to be drawing some of Daredevil. Freaking ecstatic. This guy could be the dude. One of the things interesting about Daredevil is the people who are good on it are the people who are not expected. Like Frank Miller was just some like nerd from New Hampshire, Vermont. You know, acolyte of Neil Adams, whatever. Daredevil's still bad, whatever. Nobody cares about Daredevil. Creates Elektra, does the bullseye stories everyone remembers. He basically like brought Punisher up to prominence. And then Anna Senti, it's like, hey, remember Jim Shooter's old secretary? Well, just give her, she could have Daredevil. Now it's like Chip Zdarsky. 3 years ago, he was doing stupid Howard the Duck comics that were awful. Now he's excellent. So anyway, because the people who have been reviewing this, me, just some guy, Mim Headroom, I don't remember if Yellow Flash noticed any of the improvement, but we've been noticing the improvement. And it's so weird and frustrating. So this is Iceman number 5. It is the second final Iceman. They're going to do a one-shot called Uncanny X-Men Winter's End that comes out next month. And that's supposed to wrap up. So everything's good but Iceman. The silent floating hand of infinite exasperation. That's the name I'm giving to this when I do this. How do you write an Iceman book? It's the second time you had an Iceman book. You had like 4 months just to sit and think about why you failed the first time. And you improved. You improved on your action, on your plots, on your action sequences. You improved on everything but the lead character. He's still an unlikable, smug idiot who's the unfunniest person who ever lived. But besides that, it's a good book. So this is the miniseries. The last time, like I said, SJW Marvel series, they just suddenly end at like 9, 10, 11, or somewhere around there. They don't even get to like a pleasingly round number, like 12 issues, obviously, or 15. They always end at like 11. They're just like, oh my god, stop making this terrible book. Anyway, then they kind of lied and they go, well, this is we finished our story, we told our story, we wrapped everything up, and they're like, no, you didn't. You just suddenly got canceled one day because you're trash. Then New York Times wrote a story about how amazing Iceman was because he was gay, also because he was gay, also because he was gay. They didn't read it. They did not read it. It was a Bart Simpson book report. They just, Iceman's gay, and therefore the series is good. That's not how it's good because if it's written well, if Iceman is compelling, this is everything is good except for Iceman. But then, corporate and, media, they had to bring it back, but they knew they couldn't get the sales, so they said, we're bringing it back because of secret demand that we can't prove. Oh, by the way, it's so popular, we're bringing it back in a limited form as a miniseries. And then Even the miniseries, they don't wrap it up. He says it right here. He says it right here. He goes, where is it? And it will tie up so many loose threads and land so many planes, you're going to send me the applause emoji for months to come. What's the deal with emojis? The kids love them. So it's so sad that I just want these tributes to Stan Lee to be over because they did it so incompetently. So we get actually like a little hint into his character. Like me and I think Minhead or just some guy said, if you're going to bring it back, we need some growth out of Bobby. Because I've said it a million times. After being written as, Joe Average guy for 60 years, all of a sudden he was Jack from Will and Grace. And he was Jack from Will and Grace. That's what he was. So then he basically talks about, and this is actually some good dialogue. He goes, so he basically says he's enjoying, the vacation. If he was at home, things would be different. He goes, I would fill the air with chatter, trying to keep people distracted or annoyed or amused. Anything so they wouldn't notice that I was so damn lonely and sad. It was either all eyes on me being obnoxious or me hiding in the background. Okay, so that just shows some growth for the character and growth for Iceman, Sina Grace, and realizing what he's been doing with Iceman. He's been making him obnoxious, unlikable guy. Now, supposedly it's because he's lonely. I don't understand why he's lonely except for him just being unlikable. It's not because he's gay. He lives in New York City. There's tons of gay guys there. If he's lonely, it's because he's completely unlikable and annoying, and any normal person would just maybe not hate him, but just be like, oh boy, how can I disengage from this unwanted social interaction? But anyway, there's a little bit with Mr. Sinister, who, man, has Mr. Sinister been nerfed. This guy is like a 2-episode Buffy villain, like one of the later seasons. It's embarrassing. No, he's not even a Buffy villain. He's an Angel villain. He's like it's like. But then we get into the actual story, which is kind of cool. And Sina Grace seems to even see some of the problems with it. Like these characters that just popped out of nowhere. And one of them says, aside from the preachy stuff, this Mutant Pride Parade was the best. It's like, okay, so I got to say, there was supposed to be a little surprise here, but when I saw 2 white guys wearing red hats, that's visual code for villain in comics these days. So I knew these guys were going to turn out to be villains. But then we get into a pretty cool little action sequence. And even this character who popped out of freaking nowhere. I had to confirm with other people that this character was literally just showed up in the last episode. It's a drag queen, not a teleporter. I don't know, maybe access to the Dark Force dimension, named Shade. Now, which is a good name for a drag queen character, but she just popped out of nowhere and then didn't throw any shade. Now, this one, she actually does throw shade, and she throws shade that is a fan, but it's also a fan that provides shade. Yeah, I know it's a little torture to get in there, but it works. But then the other part is like we meet this character who I think was in the issue 2, and she goes, he wants to join in, and she's like, she goes, dear brother, I cleaned up the murder of your father. And then this guy in the background goes, did you say murder? It's like, yes, murder. Thank you for acknowledging that it was a murder. Iceman let a murderer go free because something mutant rights, something gay, something. There are extenuating circumstances in a lot of murders. That's why they have manslaughter. That's why we have acquittals. But you don't just circumvent the entire judicial process because you have some similar traits to a criminal murderer. But at least they do admit that, yes, it was a murder. So I had to skip some stuff. It's just mainly going to be a bad joke. So you see this. It's like cool art. It's got some cool action. Bishop, the thing is, we talked about this. This would have been an okay, actually fairly good Bishop miniseries. Sina Grace is obviously very good at writing Bishop, very good at writing Kitty Pryde, very good at writing Storm. The new character Shade was fine, just a little tiny bit we saw. He's just really bad at writing Iceman, which is a problem because the name of the thing is Iceman, and he never learned how to be better. There was that little bit of maybe growth, and then it just goes back to like, oh, I can't show the whole thing. Basically, there's some, shenanigans, flip the script, all that type of stuff, and all the bad guys get beated. And then there's actually kind of a cool part right here. God. So Forge is talking to me. He's like, Iceman, it's Forge. My drones are catching a fight outside of the parade. You done there? Edward James almost. And then Mr. Sinister, who is so powerful, they had to have an entire crossover to defeat him back in the 80s. Now he's just this nothing villain. So he's like, you self-righteous child. He goes, Eep, call you back. What could you have possibly done to stop me besides child's play? I mean, friends, boyish good looks. I've got a whole list, but no, people don't like this. This is no. Like maybe in the 90s it would have been okay. No, it's very embarrassing. But then he turns into this giant, like, I don't know, cool looking monster with ice, and he stabs him. Although he does say, I guess all that's left is for me to go Omega level on your butt. It's like, okay. But then he turns into this super awesome monster, and he flies up and he defeats the villain, throws him into frickin' space. I was like, that's all right, cool. So then he comes back, and so this character named Maiden, who is actually pretty good. He's actually not a maiden. I'm not sure what gender he's supposed to be, but he's got a cool look. He actually, fights pretty cool. I'm assuming, I'm just going to call him he because he kind of looks like a boy, but I'm not sure what gender he is. Look, he's being badass. He's fighting the bad guys. There's a couple other scenes of him being cool and badass. And then we come back, and there was a good hero moment that was temporarily not ruined by... And then Maiden says, that was... And he goes, ice timing, am I right? Waka waka. Let's go check the editor. Just see who the editor is. The editor is Jordan D. White, group editor. This is the part where you say, hey, Sina, we really like you. You're a really likable guy. We really like your action sequences. They've gotten a lot better. Here's the deal. Nothing you say is funny. And you decided that you and Iceman are the same person. You're both not funny. You're both likable in kind of like a vaguely amusing way, as long as you never try to tell an actual joke because you're terrible at it. We've got a good moment. You set up a little bit of growth, self-realization in the beginning. So we need you to have one. We need you to do a real quick rewrite on the script, real quick, and just take out Edward James almost and him saying waka waka like Fozzie Bear. Like, that's embarrassing. It's freaking embarrassing. And God, look at this. So then he's like, finally, Irma Gerd, this feelth so good. I'm not exaggerating. Look at the screen. It says Irma Gerd, this feelth so good. And then we meet this ice Merlin guy. And they say goodbye for the second time. Right before they're going to say goodbye for the third time. Stop it. Stop doing that. The thing you do when you be terrible. We have established Sina Grace is a nice guy. A likable guy, except for when he's trying to be funny, in which he's terrible and it becomes very grating. He's actually good at just regular stuff from comics. Come up with a cool plot for the villain. Come up with a cool way for the hero to escape. Come up with a new character, Maiden, who's okay. Come up with Shade, which is actually a fun character. Cool action sequences. He's improved from just talking and bad jokes to like, hey, let me come up with cool bits. He writes Bishop excellent. Give him a Bishop miniseries. Give him a Kitty Pryde and Storm miniseries. He should never be allowed to write this character again, or any similar character, or make a character. I'm going to assume Maiden is not cis. I'm going to assume he's gay, agender, transgender. I don't know what it is. He was cool. He acted like a hero. Had a couple little anger issues, but he's living underground. He's homeless. Don't do this. Stop. Stop having him puncture guys. Come on. It's a little on the nose. But so anyway, second final. The second final Iceman issue was better than the first final, and hopefully the third final will be a little better, but it still has Iceman, so there's really no hope. Sina Grace is at Marvel. He's probably good to stay at Marvel. He could possibly have a Chip Zdarsky moment if you would say, no more of this, no more of changing characters to be yourself, no more waka waka, no more of this. You're not funny. You're mildly amusing. You're not funny. Having a drag queen called Shade who fans herself with a shade and throws shade, that's good. He actually didn't hammer that joke. So when she actually throws her shade, I was like, oh, she goes, what does she go? Don't mind me, just throwing shade. All right, fine. I don't remember if I laughed or chuckled, but it was amusing. That's as funny as you get to be because you're actually not that funny. See this? You did everything with the action. You're good at that. You're great at writing Bishop. No more Iceman for you. This thing coming out next month, Uncanny X-Men Winter's End. Yes, I'll review it. That's it. Cold turkey, no pun intended. Marvel, keep Sina Grace. Edit him. Guide him. I know he used to be an editor. He still needs editing. He still needs guidance. No more Iceman for him. Ever again. Never again. So anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Make sure you still subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks to everyone who gave to the GoFundMe, Patreon, and the Indiegogo. And I'll have more new comic reviews up tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.